Hello and welcome for this Q2 State of the Ecosystem. I'm thrilled to welcome you today and welcome our guest for the fourth edition of our State of Tezos quarterly calls. So today we're joined by Nikola Strashinsky, head of DeFi at Trilitech, as well as Bernd Ostrom and Omel Via, co-founders of Blend. We'll assume our audience has a foundational understanding of Tezos as a blockchain and its unique features. But for those who are new or need a refresher, please feel free to watch the replay of previous quarterly webinars or reach out to Nico for more information. Today's discussion will center around DeFi Catalyst Accelerator, the DCA, the progress and impact it's made on the DeFi ecosystem, and the future direction of DeFi on Etherlink and Tezos. We'll also touch on Blend's participation in the program, the DCA program. We'll highlight that along with some other insights into Etherlink and other related initiatives. And as always, please note that the information shared in this webinar is for informational purposes only, should not be considered as investment advice. So without further ado, let's get started. And let's start with Etherlink. So Nicola, the Etherlink roadmap for Q2 includes high-level targets such as launching the Etherlink accelerator, the Quest platform, mainnet open beta access, hackathon, final kernel audits, and expanding partnerships. So quite a full program. Can you give us an update on how these are progressing? Where are you guys at right now?
Yeah, so thanks for the intro. That's quite extensive. A reminder for everyone on Etherlink as a project. So Etherlink is a layer 2 blockchain rolling up to Tezos that is about to be launched at the end of the month, beginning of next month. It's an optimistic rollup, and so it inherits its security from the Tezos L1. We've been working like night and day at this point to make Etherlink and the launch a success and to make it interesting for various types of users to use Etherlink from day one. And so that roadmap that you alluded to, which is on the website etherlink.com for anyone interested in checking it in more details, had a number of aspects to it that are all going in that way, which is making it ready for the launch and making sure that there are some stuff to actually do on there from the launch. And so we're here today to debrief about the DeFi Catalyst Accelerator, in which Om and Bernd took part earlier in this quarter with me as the overall steward of it, and some of my colleagues, all of us making sure that the experience was top notch, as you'll hear about a bit later. And then for the rest, essentially, we've had some of the elements that you've listed that are already live. So the mainnet is in beta, is live. You can right now go and use Etherlink with a limit on how many tests you can bridge or how many things you can do on it, because it's a beta. Everything is live, the block explorer, the indexer with the graph, the layer 3 testnet quest is also live for anyone looking to grab a little XP from layer 3 and a few things. The hackathon did take place as well. We had a winner in Stormbit, and we had a few things around it that were interesting, and both things that we would want to do again going forward and things that we've learned from the first element. What remains to be done, and that's like the full update, is for the audits. So the audit for the kernel, the part of the Tezos code base, because as a reminder, Etherlink is an enshrined rollup, meaning that the code for Etherlink resides in the Tezos code base itself. And so that part of the code base is being audited as we speak by Sparebit, and is expected to finish by the 20th of June, roughly. And that's something where we've been working back and forth with them very closely to address any sort of questions they have about it and things like that. And apart from that, 3 other audits have already completed, and 1 is in the pipe and almost done. So that's going to be 5 out of 5 before the launch, obviously. And anything that gets raised in these audits would be addressed before any launch. And then the partners expansion is not marked as ticked on the website just yet, because while we did expand the list of partners we're working with and for actually on Etherlink over the quarter, we still have a bunch of things in the pipe. Some of them quite exciting, and some of them stemming from recommendations from the community itself. So that's something that we're not completely done with, because there's some more coming up, and some announcements I believe will be coming soon on that front.
And so, as part of these initiatives, right, one you mentioned is the DCA, the DeFi Catalyst Accelerator. It was home for 6, I think, innovative teams, including Planned. So, how do you believe these projects will shape the Etherlink and Tezos ecosystems overall in the future?
So in the DCA itself, the DCA we created because I really wanted to give a platform that would be quite streamlined, quite unified for a bunch of builders building innovative apps on Etherlink specifically, and on Tezos as well. One of the participants was building on Tezos itself. And so the goal for the DCA is to find companies that will have VC funding, so will get external funding. And in order to get external funding, as we know, you need to have some innovation and some real shot at product market fit. That's something that in DeFi on Tezos we have not had as much success on as on the outside NFT side and so on in the past. And that's like, I think, a big part of my role at Tezos, within the Tezos ecosystem. And so, like, in the way I selected those, and I think that's going to be a part of a question further down the line. The first and foremost sort of like goal here was to create something that would be a bit innovative, not a copy pasta of like some other things in other ecosystems, and something that would potentially make it a bit unique, a bit spicier to be a user on Etherlink. If it is like a regular user with MetaMask, with Rabi Wallet, and so on, or actually a user that is a bit more like arm's length, with by leveraging wallets as a service from Fireblocks, or like by leveraging account abstraction standards like ERC4337 or EIP 6900, and things that make it much more Web2-like in terms of user experience to use Web3. And so both of those were quite important to us. We got 5 teams in the program, and I'll be speaking a bit later about like how we selected those and how we thought about their shot at product market fit, and how they could compose with each other to create that virtuous circle that you've seen in previous ecosystems that were emerging in the past.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's delve into it. Let's delve into the DeFi Catalyst Accelerator, and curious to know how you add that spice and make it interesting for people to build. So let's start with the selection process for the accelerator. What criteria were used to choose the participating projects? What was the experience like for Plan to be selected, participate in the program? How does that work?
So first, let's just say that it's not easy. It's never easy to do a first cohort of anything, and it's been challenging. But we've been actually positively surprised by the results. It probably did even better than my colleagues and I were actually hoping it would do. So we started by making a website and going and spreading the word at various events, and among my personal network, and Amar's network was also working on that with me. Essentially, we collected something like 80 plus applications from various builders. Some of them were random. It's always the case in that kind of experiment. And some I had a little more of direct added value personally in trying to help X or Y ecosystem participant, wannabe app builder on something. So we wanted something where we could add a lot of take the builders by the hand to make sure that they would compose with the ecosystem, that they would benefit from everything that we've been building for months now, from day one with their application. And so that meant going for applications that either were well-established things that we know an ecosystem needs, which is the case of Plan. There is no question that we need a money market, a borrow and lending platform for Etherlink. and then some of the very cool stuff that they'll be talking about that they're building on top of this and are much more complex actually. There is no question that we need a platform, a marketplace to trade spots and go from Bitcoin to Ether and so on and so forth in a very capital efficient way and very innovative way if possible. But on the basic principle of needed spot DEX for Etherlink, there's no question. And so those were relatively simple. And who among the guys who were like offering to build that kind of things was the best placed team to execute on this was the main criteria. And then for the ones that were more like, like thinking out of the box in not in a negative way to the guys who are building the building blocks, but adding new features that might not exactly exist so far in other ecosystems, or if they exist are not like mainstream or have like relatively low amounts of TVL or things like that. There was really a point about like what the vision of the various founders who were reaching out was really about. Does it scale? Does it touch potentially normal users? And by normal users, I mean the 2 million, not the 2 million people who are already on chain, as we speak today, but the 400 million who have had an account funded on centralized exchanges over the past year. And these kind of guys, and that's what Revo, for example, another DCA participant was working on, is still working on, hopefully, and is coming out relatively soon on Etherlink as well, and is something that will allow normal users, like users with a Web2 type setup, to log in with their social credentials and things like that in a safe way to do financial applications and deposit their money in vaults on Etherlink, and that money will be farming on their behalf automatically in various ecosystems for added yields on their dollar stable coins and Ether, wrapped Ether tokens. And so that was like essentially the criteria put. Experience of the team in building something else before in the Web3 ecosystem. Failure or success doesn't really matter, but what did they take out of it if it was a failure, and how successful was it if it was a success? Caliber of the team, if it was for one of the building blocks, in really making it stand out and avoiding all of the pitfalls, especially on the borrow and lending side, that we've seen in recent months even. With the handling of those parameters, the simulation of what can happen on this type of a money market. Those money markets are essentially prime brokerage, and prime brokerage, as we know, can be seen as a bit dull, but it's actually very hard to get right. And one small mistake can lead to very large losses of money. And so you need a team that really knows inside out what each of the parameters are about, how like they impact each other, because it's not parameters being changed in isolation. One parameter will have an impact on everything else in the system. And so something that was important to us is finding a safe pair of hands for every one of those building blocks that we needed on Etherlink. And yeah, so we talked to 20 teams more in depth. We ended up selecting 5, and 3 out of the 5 got funded at the investment committee, which was the end of the program. And we're hoping that at least one, and probably like more than one of the 3 gets external funding and gets to spread their wings and really go big on building a solution that truly innovates in the space.
Wonderful. Well, speaking of spreading wings, what were your initial goals when you joined the accelerator, and why did you choose DCA over other accelerators?
So a bit of a context, we've been building on Tezos for last couple of years, I guess 3-4 years. We built Tezos DeFi on L1. So we have experience in building complex DeFi product, be it CDP based, be it Unitary V3 style DEXs, and also building bridges EVM to Tezos, right? And then we had seen that the EVM world, EVM has life of its own, and it has a more liquidity, and we could build we could innovate more, and we had a couple of ideas that we wanted to be built. And at the same time, when we were branching out our products into EVM, starting with Blend, of course, the Etherlink roadmap and Etherlink had started in full force as well, right? So we had been going on our road to build our stuff, or build our vision, build our entire roadmap for next few years. At the same time, Etherlink had also branched out its roadmap for next the whole year. And somewhere in the middle, we got into talking with Nico and the whole team, and we understood what Etherlink is going to be. And the obvious advantages that it offers, the MEV protection, be it really fast pre-confirmation times. So that was the first thing, that the product is really good. The EVM product itself is really resilient and performant. Second thing was, of course, the partner list, right? So now let's say when we are building a new product in a new space, that is EVM, you would require, and the whole EVM world, it sort of works in a way that how much BD you can do, how quickly you can get integrated yourself, how quickly you can get support. So to have these big names like Layer Zero, Pitts Network in terms of Oracle and all this, it really fit well in terms of what we are trying to build. That is a lending product. It really requires performant oracles, and then as we are talking on the cross-chain part, it requires somebody who provides an amazing bridge infra, and Layer Zero is the leader. So we essentially, all these building blocks are our own product. That is the second reason we got into this through this accelerator, which are the market leader in their own segment. So I'm not talking about just a normal, Oracle, but Pith and Layer Zero and all kind. And then the third thing was we did have, and the third thing was that it was 2 weeks in person, 4 weeks of person. And they thought it would be really cool to, sit together in an office for 2 weeks constantly and, brainstorm for the whole year and about an year and time after for that, about the vision, the roadmap, the defining the features, and touching all these nitty-gritty details of the product itself. I think that was really helpful. So these were 3-4 reasons. And of course, we did have some our previous good experience in Tezos ecosystem itself. So it's just a whole package. It wasn't a quick decision, but it all came building one after another as we went along in our journey. And eventually we thought, okay, this is, as for other accelerators that we were looking, DCA is the one that makes the most amount of sense for us. And then we went ahead with it.
Awesome. And can you guys share the general outcomes? Any major achievements, milestones that your team was able to achieve during the accelerator?
Yeah, so we launched a first version of our lending and borrowing platform on Etherlink testnet, which is also available now for users to test. We worked on our roadmap. We decided to split up our release into multiple phases, and in collaboration with the rest of the Trinitech team. We worked on our UI, UX, growth strategies, like the entire spectrum of doing a startup was tackled during the program. And something very basic or simple as just working in one place with people, it can be super helpful. Like Oom said, working with Nico and other people from Trinitech from one place and just brainstorm. That's been extremely helpful and pointed us in the right direction for the next year.
And so Nico, what kind of feedback have you been receiving from the participants of the program on about the structure, the content of the DCA program, and if other projects around are interested, what are your plans? Do you plan on iterating, expanding the accelerator for future cohorts? What are your plans there?
Yeah, one thing that I'll just say based on Bernd's last comment, it's true that like being in person, I mean, at this point, it's become underrated, as weird as it sounds. Like being all in the same place, thinking about that thing like 24/7 for 2 weeks, the intensity of it, and like being able to like share ideas very, very easily. I mean, like obviously the video conference software has improved, and but there's still like that thing about being in person that is fairly unique. And definitely, we did know that there would be a bit of a slowdown after the 2 weeks in person in Singapore for the 4 weeks remote. Plus, I had so many other commitments and things, but I think like one of those things we would want to do with DCA2, which is coming at the end of the year, is to make sure that there's not as much of a slowdown, let's say, after the first 2 weeks in person, and that we keep the 4 weeks remote, which will most likely become 3 instead of 4, as interactive, as intense as we can, knowing full like, of course, that we will never get exactly to what the 2 weeks in person can be. I think in terms of like choosing the various teams and how they work with each other and potentially compose with each other's products, which has happened like quite luckily with that cohort, but at random. I was not planning for this necessarily. Plant, for example, will I'm sorry, just one.
And maybe Brett and Om, would you have anything else to add on the? Okay, Nico is back.
Sorry for that. Each of the teams is essentially composing with at least one other from the program. Planned being like the one that most people compose with. But as an example, planned might at some point introduce some liquidation aspects that might be slightly differentiated with what's done so far. They might need, for example, one pool which is highly liquid, or one pair on a central limit order book that is highly liquid. Being able to compose with some of the features from Hanji could be interesting down the line, and therefore understanding how Hanji was engineered, how like the philosophy of the founders on where it wants to go could be super useful down the line. On the other hand, from Hanji's perspective, Hanji is a central limit order book with very unique features compared to even what's been done more recently by Gravity, by Hyperliquid, and so on. And one of those things they're doing is they're enabling you to make the markets automatically with a one-click deposit solution on a central limit order book, which has been done, but now in a fully composable way because it's on the same chain. And so you could deposit $100 to make markets on, say, the BTC against USD stablecoin pair on Hanji, and then you could deposit that receipt in Planned and borrow some more dollar stablecoins against them and go and do something else. That's something that doesn't truly exist in a precise form outside of what we're building here. There are some examples, for example, Vertex on Arbitrum. Arbitrum One is partnering with Elixir, and Elixir does have those automated strategies. But first, you need to go to a different UI. It's a different product that is linked to Vertex, and the way the markets are being managed for the users is a bit different. And same thing, Hyperliquid has done that with HLP, which is doing quite well and is very well managed. But because Hyperliquid is a roll-up, it's an app roll-up. It's a roll-up where only they are on there, and it was entirely designed for Hyperliquid. That HLP is not composable. You can't then take it on Arbitrum One and put it somewhere else because it lives on the Hyperliquid chain. And so there is some innovation there, and having Hanji speak to Planned on a frequent basis, know each other relatively well, has a real use going forward. Same thing, I could go on and on with Revo and their automated strategies. Some of them might leverage some of those automated strategies on Hanji. Some of them might loop through Planned by depositing a certain type of token and borrowing another one. And for them to speak to each other is really useful. So going forward for DCA2, for example, when we look at those applications, which we expect to receive a lot more of, now that we've spread the word, that people have seen that the first one was a success, which was not a given, and things like that, I think we're going to pay attention to that composability, which I believe is a make or break of DeFi. Composability is what DeFi does that is very hard to replicate for TradFi. So that is the one thing that we have as a moat that makes it worth it to go through all the pain of going on chain to interact, because it's something that makes your money go further, essentially. And that's a big element that we've taken into account for Etherlink to stand out when it comes out in what's becoming a very, very crowded blockchain and chain EVM chain ecosystem, and something that I believe will play a big part in DCA2 onwards.
Great. Thanks for this, Nicolas. And well, you gave us already a little bit of the flavor of what unique things can be done with Blend. But to restart and focus a bit on what Blend does, Bernd, just to start, can you give us a quick overview of what Blend does, what it is, its primary mission in the DeFi space, and where you're positioned?
Sure. So with Blend, we're building the 1-inch for lending and borrowing. We've seen a problem in the lending and borrowing space that it's very fragmented. There are a lot of different markets and on a lot of different chains, L2s. Very difficult to find accurate data. And we want to solve that problem with a one-stop shop where you can manage all your positions, always find the best rates, and also, automate your positions. So bridging your debt positions from one platform on one chain to another platform on another chain, and that's what we're building with Blend. And we will launch in multiple phases. In phase 1, we will launch as a money market on Etherlink. In phase 2, we will be focusing on the data aggregation part. And in phase 3, we will allow users to bridge their positions from platforms and different chains across the entire EVM space.
And one thing that Blend emphasizes on is that cross-chain flexibility, right? And you guys built upon the Aave v3's portal feature. So can you elaborate a bit on how this integration enables seamless asset flows between different EVM compatible networks, such as Etherlink, and how does that benefit the Tezos ecosystem?
Yep. So for this cross-chain lending, I mean, first the lending space overall has been growing quite immensely. There are a lot of new primitives that are there. A lot of platforms are doing good. Like there are new ones as well, like Morpho, Silo, Fluid by Instadev, and then there are old ones as well, like Aave, which is V3, announced V4. And there are multiple successful forks of Aave V3 as well, like Spark by MakerDAO and a bunch of others as well. So the whole space has really good players with an immense amount of liquidity. If you just more or less see how many platforms has more than $200 million TVL in this lending platform, I mean, easily there are more than 10. I mean, last time I checked, it was more than 25, right? So now you have so much of liquidity here and there, and on all of these platforms, you have different rates and all that kind of stuff. So we had been dabbling with this problem that how do we enable moving your position from one place to another in the easiest way, so that a user doesn't have to, withdraw and then go to a different tab on the bridge and then, bridge it there and then open another tab and then deposit there. So it's like 4 or 5 different tabs, 6, 7 different steps, 3, 4 different signing transactions. So the goal was how do we reduce this to even, let's say, 1 or 2 signatures at best, and from one single front end. That was the initial goal. That's how we started. So our initial idea was also around to sort of enable some unbacked credit on a destination chain. Let's say you're going from source to destination. And while we were going around this, during our research, we found out, we went through Aave governance forum and Aave V3 did have this feature. They did propose it, but it never went live in their front end. So Aave V3 is a really nice code base. They have a lot of these different kind of features. So instead of building the whole platform ourselves, we chose to build on the battle tested code base that Aave is, and taking inspiration from that. And we are enabling that feature in our implementation that we are building. And that is what essentially what it does is, in the simple terms, when you are depositing something in Aave, or let's say Plan, these are your A tokens or P tokens. When you want to move it to a different chain, you just are doing some lazy settling. You are minting the same amount of money you want to move as a credit. You just move it there. You have some bridge that talk there, and then you settle it a bit later, right? So, and then there were lot of discussions. If you look at into our governance forum, a lot of bridges proposed we will do this, but this was just never enabled. This is now proposed in Aave V4, which is by the 2025 or somewhere they are coming with different stuff. But in last 6 months or last 3 to 6 months, we have worked on this problem. We have defined the scope bit more sharper, what exactly we want to achieve. How do we bring this cross-chain flexibility of moving positions, and then adding a lot of our own innovation in it itself, right? So it's not exactly we are doing exactly what Aave want to do or wanted to do. We are redoing a lot of their step in order to give better flexibility. Is this because we are a smaller team, we can move much faster, and we have done a lot of due diligence in terms of flexibility we want to. For example, one reason behind working with Layer 0 SDK itself is that you just sign some transaction on just source chain, and then you don't have to sign a second transaction on destination chain when you want to move your position from one place to source to destination. So there are a lot of trade-offs and a lot of adjustments that we have done that makes the whole thing much faster, much seamless. And the idea is, since for all the reasons that Nico mentioned, the composability, the capital efficiency on Etherlink, when we create this aggregator that literally aggregates all the big markets into one stop destination, we hope that our money markets on Etherlink are going to be the one with the best flexibility and cheapest rate when you are borrowing, and the highest rates when you are lending, and all the liquidity from other ABMs will end up there. So that's the main motivation around all this.
Mm-hmm. And so when you move all those assets across different networks, I guess security is a critical aspect of that. So how does Plan ensure not only secure but also compliant transfers using those verified bridging protocols? How do you guys approve contracts that are granted the bridge role? And what advantage does that bring to Tezos users?
Yeah, so we only want to work with the best bridge providers in the space. And what Ohm just mentioned about Layer 0, that seems to become the gold standard for bridging in crypto. So they are super secure, and they are the way to go to bridge these kind of transactions for our platform. And we are using the Aave v3 code base, which is also audited. So there are multiple elements there in the bridge transactions that are super secure that we don't want to touch. And we have some experience ourselves with building bridges, and we know it's a very delicate piece of infrastructure. It is a honeypot. The bridge that we have developed in the past never got hacked, so we know where to look at for security in bridges, and we're very confident with picking specific protocols that we want to work with that have the highest security out there.
Yeah, maybe I can add one thing about Layer 0 specifically as a choice. So Layer 0 is a choice that we've made very early on for Etherlink, as a for the community, for the various builders that will be there, and for the users to get their money from Arbitrum 1 to Etherlink, from Base to Etherlink, and so on and so forth. Layer 0, I think one of the main benefits it has compared to many solutions I've seen in the past, and even to solutions these days. They have like essentially 3 direct competitors and then some like quasi competitors. Like the competitors are Chainlink CCIP, which is making a lot of strides with institutional market participants in particular. There's Acceler, which now even has some composability with layer 0 itself, but okay. And for example, Zeta Chain is also one. And like in what I've seen, I've looked very carefully at those with my team when we're like looking at what to go with and so on. The parameterization and the options given to you by layer 0 when you operate a bridge based on their setup are extremely well battle tested, because Stargate has been there from day one with their technology. So that is the differentiators that I don't see in many of the others. The number one bridge by volume has been used with that technology and those exact parameters for a long time. And now the other bit is, should layer 0 add a lot more fee going forward because they're doing the ZRO token or what? I don't have any insider information, to be clear. Should I don't know, like some of the parameters become a bit too lightweight compared to what we think for some of the chains, because we see chain reorgs on, let's say, Polygon POS. I don't know. Bon, but we can always change that. We can make it more secure, or we can even move away completely from layer 0 going forward. Neither Planned nor Etherlink as an ecosystem are married to layer 0. However, we really like those guys. I think out of all of the teams I've spoken to in the space, they're probably the best team I've spoken to overall. The level of understanding of the team, what they're doing with currently with like, the whole campaign, and shows like a level of understanding of the ecosystem and the risks involved that to me is above and beyond what I've seen in many other places, in bridging or in other things actually. So that's the choice for layer 0. And for the parameters themselves, we will inherit with our wrapped asset bridge for Etherlink the default parameters used on Stargate, used on other wrapped asset bridges delivered by layer 0 in the past for the Aptos bridge, the Shimmer bridge, and so on. I do think they are good enough for now. We want to be on the conservative side. We want good UX, but not at the cost of stability or security at any point. So if we do see some like things where we would want to wait for more blocks, we would want to add another DVN for a particular password or anything like that. I don't want to speak Chinese for the audience, but essentially things that like would ensure that there's as minimal of a risk as possible when bridging, then we'll do that for sure.
And with plans of coming launch on Etherlink, maybe you can tell us a bit more what the expected benefits are for users in terms of asset mobility, liquidity, and how does that launch position Planned within the broader DeFi ecosystem on Tezos?
Yeah. So for Planned, one thing, as Bernd has also said, and we are saying, like what we want to become is sort of one inch for lending and borrowing, right? Now, for a lot of people, when they want to do swap, the go-to interface is either 1 inch, also DeFi Llama swap lately as well. But aggregators have always worked well, and they've done really well in the DEX space. And what aggregator does is not only it gives you the best route for your swap, or in our case for lending asset or borrowing asset, it also makes it also gives visibility to smaller, or let's say niche, more capital efficient protocols as well, right? And so what it enables is a sort of a level playing field for all the money markets that are out there across the EVM chains, and makes everyone responsible, that everybody manage their parameters really well. Nobody just messes up with stuff in a way that it becomes risky, and it essentially brings all the whole lending and borrowing space together from just one single front end. Not only with that, but also with the detailed analytics of how your position has been doing, and how this certain market has done historically, and deeper more data insights about managing your positions as well. So they're very smaller things like right now lending and borrowing category on DeFi Llama, it sits around $37 billion TVL. It's second biggest TVL category after LRTs. And even in LRTs, I believe a lot of LRT space itself are into the money markets as well. So it's such a huge category, right? Essentially, but there hasn't been a lot of innovation has been done more on the foundation smart contractual side, but not much on the infrastructure side or the analytical side, or more in the insights of how you should be managing your positions. So I think that's what we are handling. We know there are really great teams. There are a lot of we respect everyone, be it V3, be it Morpho, be it Fluid guys, be it Silo guys. Everybody's doing fundamental innovative stuff. We are also building our own fundamental innovative stuff on Etherlink, but there needs to be this infrastructure layer that just brings the whole space together, gives much better tools for the end user at just one place, so that they can manage their positions, they can switch their position, they can move their positions across the space. And it's just about time the whole space is kicking off. The lending and the cross-chain market of lending and borrowing itself is kicking on. So we are right at the rightly positioned. We are rightly positioned at this point of time to do it in the best way possible. So it not only brings a lot of flexibility, just one place to manage all your position for Etherlink users, but for the whole EVM world in general, and gives them a much seamless UX. So you don't have to open 5 different tabs or 7 different transaction signing. You just sign 1-2 transaction at max in one simple UI.
Thanks a lot for sharing that. Very excited for the launch. And so now, more generally looking ahead, Bernd, what advice do you have that you want to share for projects that are exploring accelerators? Why should they consider the Tezos and the DCA?
Well, for us, it was a no-brainer to participate, since we developed on L1 already, and there was a huge opportunity to launch something on EVM. But for people from outside the Tezos ecosystem, there is a huge opportunity to launch on a new L2 with a level playing field. We've seen on other chains that the first platforms that come are usually the ones that become big on that specific L2, and that opportunity is now for beginning startups. So yeah, I would advise any startup that is starting out now to look at Etherlink and see what you can build on it. And for the accelerator, yeah, we were able to do a lot more in less amount of time. What's in the name? The accelerator. But yeah, for us, it's been super helpful. And I think like if you are into EVM, there's a huge opportunity to launch something new on a new L2. And the Tezos L1 is super secure. And for us, that was the place to go to back in the day, 5 years ago. But for short to medium term, we know EVM is king. So this is the best of both worlds, basically for developing in the near future.
And as builders, with such a rapid pace at which the DeFi landscape evolves, what aspects of the Tezos technology roadmap, including developments like on Etherlink, what do you find most exciting, and how do you see those enhancements further benefiting Plend, its users, and the broader ecosystem in general? And maybe Nico will have something to say about this too. But let's get started with Ohm, if you will.
Yeah. So for Etherlink, I think it's in a very unique position to take over a lot of DeFi activity in the EVM world. For of course reasons like there is no MEV, and MEV has also been a big issue in a lot of places. It's super fast. The pre-confirmation types are also pretty neat. And it's built on the battle tested technology of Tezos L1. It's enshrined. There is a governance involved for the Tezos kernel itself. So there are a lot of technological wise, things that are there. And one other pretty cool thing is the data availability layer as well. That went live, I guess, yesterday with sampling enabled. So the more rollup nodes are there, the more the throughput of the rollups will increase as well. Because what I see as right now is in the L2 space, there is no one, let's say, who has quite has the crown of DeFi rollup, right? Of course, Arbitrum has a lot of DeFi activity. Then Blast has a lot of some DeFi activity, mostly enabled by incentives, and a lot of L2s is mostly enabled by incentives itself. But to have some real DeFi activity going on there, you need you need no MEV, you need your rollups which are really secure, not held by, let's say, 5 out of 8 or 3 out of 5 multisigs. And there can be genuine composability and genuine applications as well, which does gives you more advantage as opposed to using other apps on other rollups, right? So I think the whole roadmap of Etherlink is being the way it is being designed by, let's say, the team behind Etherlink, Trilitech, or Nico and the team, that what are the partners we are going to have, as opposed to having 10 different bridges. Let's work with this one partner, as opposed to having 50 different startups from day one. Let's work in the focus way with 5 startups to DCA, and really build out a foundation for building sort of like I don't want to use the DeFi rollup, but I think Etherlink is going to be one of the best place for building anything in DeFi across the EVM world. As of course, the other things will be there as well. But I think the whole technical things that are there, be it MEV, the DL, the throughput stuff, the security aspect, there is no multisig, there is enshrined bridge, etc. It already position it way above from what exists.
Yeah, maybe I can tag on to that answer, and basically to Bernd's previous answer. I think one aspect, of course, like we've spec'd out the chain to be feature parity, which is already super important to what's best done out there, but also have some USPs of its own. And some of them are like, we care deeply, I care deeply about MEV. I think that thing is a very big problem in the ecosystem for toxic MEVs, that is. And we care about like things being doable very, very easily without any like sort of like thinking and so on for the users themselves. So we've engineered the chain in a way, designed to the chain in a way that is as low fragmentation as possible, which is why we're getting only one bridge. And of course, like, it's permissionless, many more can come. But we're working with one specifically because we want one version of an asset for every asset. We want one USDC, one USDT, one BTC, which is our own TZBTC, which has been relaunched recently, and so on. We don't want money to be standing in a pool being rewarded for just being there between WBTC and BTC.B, or between USDC and USDC.E, and so on and so forth. We want as simple as it gets. I have USDC on Etherlink, but that's the one. Things like that. But on the other hand, what we really worked hard on, that is not the base layer, that's purely how the apps are built on it and what's available on Etherlink from day one. I think one that's truly unique for people looking at the DCA, looking at Etherlink more generally, is Midas. So we have a stablecoin coming to Etherlink by our partner called Midas, a Berlin-based company that has a very clever solution, safe and clever, around stablecoins to be able to offer a yield on stablecoins down the line, and from the very beginning, a free on-ramp and off-ramp to their stablecoin. So that on-ramp is near instant, less than 15 minutes, no minimum, and free, including on weekends. That is something that does not exist, as far as I know, in any other ecosystem, and that gives you essentially fungibility between, like, your money in fiat currencies and your money in crypto, more or less for the first time. That's something that, if built upon really carefully, which is what Revo are doing at the moment, what Hanji has started doing in the past few weeks, can give you an enormous leg up on competition. Because if you're, for example, looking to build the Coinbase on-chain or the Binance on-chain, well, that's now a real possibility. You can have your money and keep it in fiat for whenever you need it or something. And whenever you want to trade, you trade and you move your money on chain, and that's in real stable coins. And another example of partners that we have like that is IDOS, which is a KYC solution. They don't only do KYC, but for the beginning, they're going to be used for KYC, where you can reshare at the user's request. It's simply a signature that you provide, KYC or any element about you with any protocol or app that needs it. So you've taken the KYC to be able to mint and redeem EUSD with Midas, and now you want to use Revo. You just sign, and that KYC gets shared again, and you move on. No additional cost for the app in KYCing you. No time wasted from your side in taking that KYC again. That's the kind of stuff that we really want to promote and push for Etherlink, because that's something that can get us some of those 400 million users on chain, because they can finally do something relatively easily, and that they wouldn't be able to do by staying on centralized exchanges or pure centralized exchanges.
Maybe to summarize a lot of the things that have been discussed today, Nico, with all the developments going on in the Tezos and its ecosystem, how do you envision the future of DeFi on Tezos? And what are the strategic priorities that you're focusing on? And what are the next steps to drive growth and adoption in the ecosystem?
That's a big question. Let me give it a try. I think, in the short, medium term, I think we have a very good shot with Etherlink. This is our this is our time. We need to make a success of that launch. We need to do a lot of explanations for the existing Tezos ecosystem, for some other people in other ecosystems potentially, but the real honeypot, to take Bernd's terminology again, is not the on-chain people. The people who are on-chain right now, just look at the latest amazing, by the way, piece of content by Bankless, that debate between Anatoly and Justin Drake, and just look at the state of the ecosystem. What actually seems to matter, for major ecosystems right now, we're talking about peanuts here. We're talking about 2 million users who are extremely expensive to acquire, and are not loyal. They're looking for the best yield, the best opportunity, and so on. And they have their use. I am one of those users. We probably all are here, and that's fine. But that's not the end game whatsoever. The end game is to actually bring that technology to a point where it's actually useful. And for this to matter, for a smart contract blockchain, Bitcoin is in a category of its own. It's a different thing. For a smart contract blockchain, we need to work on making those apps on top of the blockchain as usable or fun or both as possible. And so for Etherlink right now, the clear goal is to have those partners that are enablers, Midas, IDOS, like I was saying, or those infrastructure partners which are also enablers, like Layer 0 and Block Scout for the Block Explorer, and Pice for Oracle price feeds and Entropy on chain and things like that. Work with them very carefully to leverage the most we can from those solutions, so that builders like Bernd, like Ohm, can come and actually create apps that I want to use, not because I'm incentivized to use them, but because genuinely there's a point in using them longer term. And Etherlink, I think, is our best shot at this, leveraging the heavy work that is still ongoing as we speak on Tezos under the hood. But this should be, at least in my opinion, under the hood for now. Adaptive issuance that got pushed through with the latest upgrade to the Tezos blockchain, very successful upgrade, makes it possible to have a secure blockchain, proof of stake blockchain in the form of Tezos as a stable L1 to settle to and to do data availability with, at a cheaper cost on average going forward, that is more incentivized, where the incentives are more aligned for the bakers, the validators on Tezos, and for the end users, who are at the end the ones that we really, really care about. Things related to, like, anything that can make the on-chain experience as seamless as Web 2 as possible is going to be a priority for us. How do we do account abstraction in the best way possible while remaining safe for large amounts? At the end of the day, what that debate again was showing is that, like, blockchain is about finance. It's entirely about finance for now. What matters to people is how quick the block time is, how secure the chain is, and how much it costs to run, depending on which side you are of the debate I'm talking about. And all of those things are with an end goal of making it better or else equal than solutions that exist currently for some aspects of finance. And so whether it's account abstraction with ERC 4337, the current standard being leveraged by a lot of people, whether it's MPC with wallet as a service type setups, like what DFNS has worked with a few partners to pioneer more recently. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm agnostic to this. We are agnostic as an ecosystem as well, I believe. And what really matters is what can bring the user the better applications in a short sort of like time span, by the end of the year, by the middle of next year, something like that. So yes, that partially answers your question for the priorities for Tezos on DeFi. And where I see things going, that's pure speculation, to be honest. Like, anything that works, we're happy with. But I think in the short term, having a very efficient way to trade on Tezos via Etherlink over the short term, with Hanji, with some of the things that are being developed on the AMM forking side for some launch pads and things like that, with an ecosystem that is fair from the ground up by design, I think is going to be helpful, because that's something that already has product market fit in other ecosystems, and where we believe we can do better in some aspects of that stack. And for the rest, like, I think seeing a sort of neobank, something that lets you very easily take your money that is currently in your bank account, in your like anything that your Venmo, your Revolut, whatever, and putting it in essentially crypto on chain seamlessly, to let you take part in those higher yields because of composability, higher yields because of barrier to entry historically in those markets. I think will do quite well, and I would love to see something like that work well on Etherlink specifically over the next few months and by the end of the year.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your perspective and your vision on this. Well, I think that about wraps up our call for today. Any final word? Where can folks follow you on social media?
Yeah, so these days I'm actually a lot more active on social media than I've been for some time. I did create a Twitter in my own name. If you look for it, it's at Nico_ST_29. It was the only one available. And I've posted a lot of things around the DCA and around questions being answered all the time on Etherlink itself, on that handle regularly. And the @Etherlink handle reposts a bunch of things, post content of their own. So that's also quite a handful one to look at once in a while.
So wanted to highlight a few things. So for the devs, for the builders, for the startups, there are some really interesting tools here. Like Nicholas said, there are some great opportunities. And then for the end user, there will be points. And where you can find us at Blend Finance on Twitter/X. You can find me at Bernd_Oostrum. And pass the mic on to Om.
Yeah, I think I'll echo what Bernd said. Please, our Blend is live on testnet, so do test it out. Give us any feedback you have. You can follow us at Blend Finance, and you can also join our Discord by going to our website, that is plend.finance. And we are hanging out in Discord all the time. We can chat if you have deeper idea, smaller idea, any kind of idea you have, and any doubt or bugs you want to report, please do it. Yeah, and that's good. We are really looking forward to launch of Etherlink out of its beta, and then launching planned on Etherlink as well. And next 6 to 12 months are going to be epic. So do watch out for both Etherlink and planned.
And well, I think this wraps up our Tezos Q2 State of the Ecosystem. Thanks a lot for being here today. Thanks to everyone for listening in, and see you next time.
Pleasure.
Thank you for hosting session.
Thanks for having us.